The story begins in a time when the war had made conditions very dire. In the midst of all this was a ruthless king who wanted to become the emperor of all of China. For this reason, he had built a massive army. The emperor began attacking kingdoms with his army and took control of them. At this time, the emperor was the most powerful king in China, and no other king could stand against him. The emperor had acquired everything, but time does not stop for anyone, and he slowly began to grow old. However, the emperor wanted to outsmart death in any way possible. Recently, he learned about a witch who was immortal. Therefore, the emperor wished to become immortal like her and never die. He instructed one of his generals, named Minute, to bring the witch to him. General Minute set out on his journey and eventually reached the witch's home on a mountain. Upon seeing her, General Minute was stunned because she was incredibly beautiful. They both liked each other at first sight. General Minute managed to bring the witch back to the emperor's empire. The emperor was also astonished by the witch's beauty. Consequently, he decided that he would marry her. However, the truth was that the witch had fallen in love with General Minute, and this fact did not remain hidden for long. One day, the emperor saw General Minute and the witch being intimate with each other. But the emperor said to the witch, "I will marry you to General Minute. But first, I need to make you immortal like yourself." The witch found this quite appealing, so she took out her magical book and began reading some words in Sanskrit. After all the spells were completed, a strange power began to emerge within the emperor and his entire army. The emperor felt that perhaps he and his whole army had become immortal. He then took the witch outside with him, but at the emperor's command, the soldiers captured General Minute. This meant that the emperor was now going to kill General Minute. The general's hands and feet were tied with ropes, which were being pulled by horses. In front of the witch, General Minute met a terrible end. The emperor wanted to kill the witch as well, but suddenly, the emperor and his entire army began to turn to stone. The witch quickly saved herself and fled from the scene. Actually, the witch had already suspected the emperor's cunning, which is why she chose not to recite the spell for immortality but instead recited a spell that would turn the emperor and his entire army to stone. Gradually, thousands of years passed, but the emperor and his large army remained encased in stone. Now, we are shown a couple in England, Rick and Evelyn. Evelyn is a talented writer who needed to write a book for a publishing house. She often included ancient tales in her writings, and her husband, Rick, helped her with the research. Meanwhile, in Egypt, we see their son, Alex, who worked in a private company as part of an archaeological team searching for ancient artifacts. After hours of careful exploration, Alex's team discovers a massive cave in the Egyptian land. To investigate further, Alex and some of his companions entered the cave. They were shocked to find many soldiers turned to stone, all in identical positions, staring at a tomb placed in the center. The terrifying fact was that this entire place belonged to the emperor, who had been turned to stone many years ago due to the witch's curse. Suddenly, a lady began attacking Alex's companions in the cave. Cleverly, she took many of them down, as if she were protecting the place from intruders. After looking around, Alex and his team found an object resembling a compass. Curious about how these ancient artifacts worked, Alex poured a little water into the compass and turned it on. Immediately, the entire area transformed drastically. Alex fell slightly below the ground, and the unknown lady, now attacking the remaining members of the group, tried to knock them unconscious before going after Alex. He managed to catch a glimpse of her face, but the lady seemed to be hiding her identity, so she quickly fled the scene. Alex then rushed outside to inform everyone about this discovery. An employee from the museum approached Rick and Evelyn, bringing important information that Evelyn could include in her book. The employee told them about a magical eye found underground, which was extremely ancient. The magical eye was temporarily given to Evelyn for research so she could complete her book. In honor of Rick and Evelyn, a grand party was organized, which Alex also attended. In fact, Alex missed his parents a lot because he had spent his childhood in a boarding school, so he wasn't very attached to them. As they enjoyed the party, suddenly a Chinese general arrived with all his men. One of the general's associates snatched the magical eye away. This man had worked with Rick for many years but had been lured to the general's side with a large sum of money. The Chinese general desperately needed the magical eye. He believed that World War III was about to start, and they would be at a significant disadvantage. However, if the emperor, who had turned to stone years ago with his entire army as part of a trap, could be brought back to life, they would fight against their enemies, significantly elevating their country's power. The general also knew that the magical eye could be used to revive the dead. Therefore, despite Rick and Evelyn's protests, the general took the magical eye to the emperor's tomb. Inside this coffin lay the emperor's body. The general quickly activated the magical eye to bring the emperor back to life. However, just as he was about to place the magical eye on the coffin, Alex arrived with the unknown lady who had killed his men. They swiftly snatched the magical eye from the general and threw it away. Meanwhile, Rick and Evelyn's companions were busy trying to stop the general's men. In the chaos, the magical eye fell onto a soldier riding a nearby horse. And now, due to the powers of the magical eye, the soldier had awakened. It was later revealed that he was no ordinary soldier but the emperor himself. His body was not in the coffin but on the horse. The cruel emperor had come back to life after all these years. Rick and the others continued to attack the emperor with their guns, but thanks to the magical eye, the emperor had numerous powers that allowed him to stop them all at once. The Chinese general approached the emperor and declared that he was his servant and wanted to help him. The emperor then brought out his chariot and invited the general to sit down. Their plan was to escape, and they started to leave. However, Alex and the unknown girl, whose name was Lin, ran under the chariot and tried to hold it back, wanting to go with them. After their fight, Alex and Lin had become friends, and Alex had started to like Lin in some way. But just then, the general detached the chariot from the wagon, leaving Alex and Lin behind. The general had successfully escaped with the emperor. However, it seemed that the emperor had a foolproof plan to attack. Lin handed a small dagger to Alex's mom and told her that stabbing the emperor's heart with this dagger would kill him. There was no other way to stop the emperor. Here, we learn that Lin was none other than the daughter of the witch who had cursed the emperor and his army, turning them to stone many years ago. Lin then shared another terrifying piece of information. The emperor and the general were heading toward a massive golden tower in the Himalayas. The magical eye was still with the emperor, and if he placed it atop the golden tower, he would receive a strange direct signal that would lead him to sacred water. After drinking it, the emperor could become immortal forever. This would grant him various powers and allow him to resurrect his army turned to stone. If that happened, modern civilization would be completely under the emperor's control. Thus, to thwart the emperor's plans, everyone set out to the Himalayas. After several hours of traveling through the heights of the Himalayas, Alex and the others finally reached the summit. Where the golden tower was located, the emperor and the general were expected to arrive shortly. The general immediately commanded his soldiers to attack Alex and his friends. The soldiers were equipped with advanced weapons, allowing them to continue their assault. However, Lin, who was highly skilled in the secret arts, quickly recited a spell and summoned some monsters to fight against the general's army, protecting everyone. But when the emperor learned about this, he let out a powerful roar, and the vibrations were so intense that all the monsters fled in fear. Now, the emperor's path was clear. He took the magical eye and ascended to the golden tower, placing it atop. As he did so, light streamed into the magical eye, indicating various directions. Following these directions, the emperor could reach the magical water that would grant him immortality. Alex did not want this to happen, so he picked up a stick of dynamite to throw it onto the icy rocks, hoping it would kill the emperor and his men. However, the emperor was watching Alex from above, so he threw a small sword at him. Alex had dropped the dynamite onto the icy mountain, but just then, Rick jumped in to save his son from the deadly sword, which pierced through his body. In an instant, a massive explosion occurred, causing all the snow to fall. The primitive humans then arrived to help everyone escape. They carried the injured Rick and others into a cave that was very mysterious. Inside, there was a small temple, and as they approached, they saw a lady who was none other than the witch. Lin was overjoyed to reunite with her mother after so many years. The witch quickly used the sacred water to heal Rick's wounds. She explained to them that when she attacked the emperor, despite being injured, she had managed to turn him and his entire army to stone. The primitive humans brought her to the sacred water, but now they had to keep the emperor away from this holy water. Because if he drank that water even once, he would not only become immortal but would also gain unlimited powers. He could revive his entire army, and due to the sacred water, he would transform into a dangerous creature. Now, we see the growing closeness between Alex and Lin. Alex confesses his love to Lin, but she becomes very thoughtful because she is immortal and Alex is not. She has witnessed her mother crying after her husband's death, an experience she does not want to endure herself. Therefore, Lin rejects Alex's proposal to be together. Alex then goes directly to his father, Rick, who apologizes for everything. After this incident, the distance between Alex and his parents diminishes significantly, and the three of them become a close family. However, shortly after, the emperor attacks the place with all his companions, pushing forward to acquire the sacred water. The emperor had also obtained the knife that could kill him, and then he jumped directly into the sacred water. The emperor was now fully immortal due to the sacred water and gained a lot of energy. These powers were so immense that the shape of the emperor's body began to change, and he gradually transformed into a terrifying three-headed dragon. No one had ever been able to fight this dragon. The emperor captured Lin in his hands and flew away to a distant place. The witch wanted to save her daughter at all costs. Just then, Rick suggested that they could reach that place using a helicopter because he knew that the emperor had gone to Egypt to awaken his remaining armies. However, the witch warned that they might be too late, as the emperor would surely revive his soldiers no matter what. In the midst of this, everyone was informed that he had a very good plan. Many years ago, this dangerous emperor had buried all his enemies in the ground of the Great Wall of China after killing them and had cursed them to take revenge. Therefore, the witch thought it would be a good idea to bring back all those souls to help them fight against the emperor's army. However, after reciting this spell, the witch and her daughter Lin would lose their immortality. But with no other options left, the witch decided to go ahead and recite her spell. After this spell, all the undead had come back to life, and they were against the emperor. The emperor also revived all his soldiers, and now a fierce battle broke out between the two armies. All the soldiers were trying to kill each other like madmen. The witch also came to fight the emperor. The emperor struck at her with his sword, which she managed to catch with her hands. But then, the witch's attention was drawn to the knife that could kill the emperor. The witch stabbed the emperor with his sword to retrieve the knife, and she finally succeeded in getting it. Due to such a dangerous attack, the witch was severely injured. Lin rushed to check on her mother, who was taking her last breaths. The witch handed over the small sword to Evelyn and Rick, telling them to stab it into the emperor's heart, after which he would immediately die. Alex and Rick went there to fight the emperor. The emperor had transformed into a dangerous creature with the help of his dark powers, throwing Alex around. But Rick suddenly came from behind with a sword and plunged it into the emperor's body. However, this attack did not reach the emperor's heart, so he was only slightly injured. The emperor pulled out the sword and threw it away, then made several attempts to kill Rick. Rick challenged the emperor, telling him that if he had any courage, he should fight him one-on-one without his magic. Thus, the emperor left his magic and began to fight Rick. Rick had a broken piece of the sword, which he wanted to use to kill the emperor. But the emperor caught him, and suddenly, Alex jumped in from behind, holding another broken piece of the sword, and quickly stabbed it into the emperor's heart. The emperor began to melt completely. Evelyn and the others also arrived there, and with the help of that sword, all the magic inside the emperor was destroyed, causing him to explode like lava. After the emperor's demise, his revived army was also destroyed. The armies of the other souls began to celebrate their victory, and now that their mission was complete, all those souls turned to dust and flew away. Finally, Lin and Alex had entered into a relationship with each other. As Lin was no longer immortal, she had become a normal human like Alex. And this is how our story comes to an end.